Luke chapter 10, verse 18, we read these words of Jesus. And he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. These words are written in Greek and translated to English. However, Jesus probably spoke these words in Aramaic. Aramaic is a part of the Northwest Semitic group of languages, which also includes Hebrew. Aramaic script was widely adopted for other languages and is ancestral to the Arabic and Hebrew alphabets. Two words in this text are of particular interest. The words are lightning and heaven. Jesus said, I saw Satan falling as lightning from heaven. In Greek, the word for lightning is astrape. It has a direct Hebrew equivalent. From Strong's Hebrew Dictionary, words 1299 and 1300 from the Hebrew language, the word for lightning is barak. In the Greek text of Luke chapter 10, the word translated as heaven in Greek is uranos. It can mean the heaven of God, but it also carries with it the connotation of the heights, or a high place, or the domain of Satan himself. Evidence of this is found in the same book of Luke, in chapter 8, verse 5, when Jesus speaks of the gospel being attacked demonically. He uses these words, and the birds of the air devoured it. Here, the most accepted context by biblical scholars is that the birds are the demonic realm, and the air is the realm of Satan, from on high, or the heights. The Greek word used here for air is uranos, evidence that this Greek word is not always used in the sense of the heaven of God, but it can be used for the heights or the high places or the domain of Satan himself. In Luke chapter 10, verse 18, this is the exact context of Jesus' words. I saw Satan falling like lightning from the heights or the high places, or from Satan's domain on high, or from the heavens or heaven. If Jesus' word, translated in the English text as heaven, was referring to the heaven of God, the Hebrew word would be shamayim. More than likely, though, according to the context of Luke 10 and Luke 8, Jesus was not referring to the shamayim of God, but rather the domain of Satan. Now consider this amazing fact. The book of Isaiah is the source of origin for the Christian concept of Satan or Lucifer. In Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 through 19 especially. In Isaiah chapter 14, verse 14, we hear these words spoken by Satan himself. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. This matches the exact context of Jesus' words in Luke chapter 10. In the verses of Isaiah that refer directly to Lucifer, several times it is mentioned that Satan has fallen from the heights or from the heavens. The Hebrew word used in this text for the heights from which Satan fell is Hebrew word number 1116 in the Strong's Hebrew Dictionary, and it is pronounced Bama. Bama is most commonly used to refer to a high sacred place, as well as to the heights of the heavens or clouds. So in Jesus' prophecy of Luke chapter 10, verse 18, if spoken by a Jewish rabbi in Hebrew, influenced by the poetry of Isaiah, he would use, in one form or another, depending upon the exact wording and context, the words that come from the root forms of these two Hebrew words, barak and bama, to describe Satan falling like lightning from on high. Hebrew for lightning is barak, and Hebrew for the heights or the high places is bama. This fact is indisputable. So is Jesus actually giving us a clue as to who the future antichrist might be? Many believe so. It is possible that it is merely a strange coincidence. Yet it cannot be denied. If Hebrew words were used to describe Jesus' statement about Satan falling or coming to earth, perhaps as a man in the form of the Antichrist, the Hebrew words barak and bama would be used.
If you look at Barack Obama's audiences and look at the effect of his words, those people are being transformed from what they were. His language is raising them above their racial, ethnic, cultural, religious differences, and he is welding people into a bond that has never been seen before. What's going on? Who is this young man?
I want to thank.
Christian God is the one and only true living God, the creator of heaven and the universe. Jesus Christ is God. Jesus Christ is God. Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Jesus Christ is the Son of God.
I agree.
You are antichrist.
First of all, I agree Jesus Christ is the Lord. I believe in that.
List those off. In terms of speaking to former presidents, I've spoken to all of them that are living. Obviously, President Clinton. Hey, I didn't want to get into a Nancy Reagan thing about, doing any seances.
You were the first that I know of nationally to use the adjective arrogant in describing Barack Obama. Is this an example of that arrogance?
Oh, absolutely. And not only is the statement arrogant, but then how he handled it is arrogant. He made the statement, then he tried to soften the statement before, thinking that somehow or another he could cover up and say, well, that's not exactly what I said. And he's also very arrogant. He is an ironic, sardonic observer of what's been going on in the Senate since he arrived there. Not a participant, but he's been, he's very smart, and he knows it. And he lets that display itself by the kind of arrogance we've seen here in the last couple of weeks.
As president, I will end misguided defense policies. I'm the only major candidate who opposed this war from the beginning. And as president, I will end it.
Coalition and Iraqi security forces have achieved progress in the security arena. A premature drawdown of our forces would likely have devastating consequences.
You were one of Barack Obama's first supporters, back when few people really had faith in him to do this job. How does it feel tonight?
It feels like hope won. It feels like it's not just a victory for, obviously, Barack Obama. It feels like America did the right thing.
Which passages of Scripture should guide our public policy? Should we go with Leviticus, which suggests slavery is okay? Or we could go with Deuteronomy, which suggests stoning your child if he strays from the faith? Or should we just stick to the Sermon on the Mount, a passage that is so radical that it's doubtful that our own Defense Department would survive its application? Folks haven't been reading their Bible.
Contrary to the rumors that you've heard, I was not born in a manger. I was actually born on Krypton and sent here to save the planet Earth. We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set.
One of the programs familiar to those who follow the Clinton years and lived through them, obviously, the idea of universal citizen service. Take us through what the expectation is, because you offer really a challenge in the book. You say, you know, essentially it's not a free ride, you have to participate. So tell us about that.
I always say there's two words in the sense, you on the identified the word universal, because we have to bring country together. We also identify, and I think a big word here is responsibility. One of the things we say in the book, and I quote it often, and it's what Bruce and I talk about all the time, and those who came through the Clinton years, and I believe is a operative philosophy for Democrats, citizenship is not an entitlement program. It comes with responsibilities. And at every stage in American history, where our leaders have asked our citizens to engage in what is their piece of their so-called relationship to government, what they have to assume is their responsibility, we've come through those challenges stronger and conquering not only the challenge, but stronger as a country. Whether it's putting a man on the moon, Peace Corps, in fact, we were stronger after AmeriCorps, etc. Citizen service, it deals with, I think, two fundamental challenges this country has. One, that we are in a long struggle against terrorism, and America is a target, and therefore one of the best ways to prepare America is to bring the citizens forward in understanding what their role is going to be. Everything from if the levees break to if there's a chemical attack in this country or some type of attack, what role they have. And training the citizens, everybody somewhere between the ages of 18 and 25 will serve 3 months of basic training and understanding in a kind of civil defense. Second, the other big challenge of the 21st century. We're clearly a more diverse country than any point in American history. And we need to make that diversity our strength, not our weakness. If everybody just kind of balkanizes off to separate populations and separate kind of ethnic or economic or whatever groups, it is harder and harder to pull us together as a nation in a common mission. That universal sense of service, somewhere between ages 18 and 25, will give Americans, once again, a sense of what they are to be American and their contribution to a country and a common experience.
got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong.
Yes, we can.
Obama's health care plan will include coverage of all essential medical services. Yes, we can.
Thank you, say. 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 Thank you, say.
When there was despair in the Dust Bowl and the law said in their exits the window.
Thank you, say.
The law said in their exits the window.
Thank you, say.
The law said in their exits the window.
Thank you, say.
A new sense of common purpose. Yes, we can.
Thank you, say.
Sabert na maakt was meer sooner.
Thank you, say.
Sabert na maakt was meer sooner.
Thank you, say.
Sabert na maakt was meer sooner. Shall overcome. Yes, we can. A man touched down on the moon.
Thank you, say. Marker will ask you. Thank you, say. Marker will ask you. Thank you, say. Marker will ask you.
They're going to try to say, well, you know, he's got a funny name. And he doesn't look like all the presidents on the dollar bills and the $5 bills. You know, he's new. Doesn't look like the other presidents on the currency.
You are the instruments that God is going to use to bring about universal change. And that is why Barack has captured the youth. And he has involved young people in a political process that they didn't care anything about. That's a sign. When the Messiah speaks, the youth will hear. And the Messiah is absolutely speaking.
First of all, giving honor to God and our Lord and Savior, Barack Obama. Barack Obama. Y'all
Been over. As she would approach the children, she would say to each one, "Are you the one? Are you the one?" Remember how she stood in that doorway and she held that baby in her arms and she said, "Are you the one, Jimmy?" Are you the one? Well, I watched that movie many years ago, but I do believe today I have the answer to Miss Pittman's question. It's a question that the entire nation is asking. Is he the one? Is he the one? South Carolina, I do believe he's the one. Giving us the audacity of hope.
Now, I know some people want me to bypass Congress and change the laws on my own. Believe me. And believe me, right now dealing with Congress, the idea but believe me, the idea of doing things on my own is very tempting. I promise you, not just on immigration reform.
As the U.S. prepares to send 30,000 more troops to Afghanistan, President Barack Obama receives his Nobel Peace Prize in Norway. The nomination, announced in October, elicited swift reaction. Some praised the choice, while others questioned whether or not Obama really deserved it. By then, the president had been in office for less than a year, whereas the Peace Prize is traditionally given for long-term achievements. In his acceptance speech, the president said, "War is sometimes a necessary measure to achieve peace."
I am pro-choice. I believe in Roe versus Wade, and I come to that conclusion not because I'm pro-abortion. It is important for me to go ahead and affirm that I think same-sex couples should be able to get married.
Can a microscopic tag be implanted in a person's body to track his every movement? There's actual discussion about that. You will rule on that, mark my words, before your tenure is over. Can brain scans be used to determine whether a person is inclined toward criminality or violent behavior? You will rule on that.
Friends, implantable identification chips have been around for a very long time. You've no doubt heard about chips implanted in pets so that a lost animal can be scanned and then safely returned to its owners. Look, today's radio frequency identification chips, RFID is what we'll call them in this segment, they're about the size of a piece of rice. There are other types that are tiny too, little tiny squares. Their basic function is to retain information, basically to allow themselves to be scanned to retrieve that info. And this is the best part, and to track the being that that implant is in. Now, I know that there's a lot of hardcore Christians out there and a lot of hardcore rapture people out there that are saying, mark of the beast, that's what this is. Whether it is or not, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Obamacare. That's right, House Resolution 3962, better known as Obamacare. Now, go to house.gov/rules/health/11-AHCAA.pdf. You'll need Adobe to open this file up. Type in page 1501 of 1990 at the upper left-hand corner of the page. This is going to bring you to Subtitle C, Food and Drug Administration, Part 1, Section 2571, National Medical Device Registry. Now, we're sending you to the website for a very specific reason. So all you liberals out there can't say that we are conspiracy theorists making all this stuff up. Every bit of information that I use is going to come from reliable sources. Two of the sources will be federal government sources. This one in particular, the House website that gives you all the wording of the bill, and the other one will be from the FDA's website. We have an outside website also, but it's actually the manufacturer who makes these implants. So it's their own company website. Again, we're not looking at a blogger's website or something like that. These are official websites of the federal government or the manufacturer of these implants that we're going to be sending you guys to. That's why we sent you here. Now, immediately under that particular section that I just told you to go to, it reads, the Secretary shall establish a National Medical Device Registry to facilitate analysis of post-market safety and outcomes data on each covered device. Now, go down a few lines and you're going to see the first device they're talking about is a Class 3 device. Class 3 devices are breast implants, pacemakers, things like that. Things that basically are already being implanted in a human being to facilitate some kind of function. Again, whether it's a breast implant or a pacemaker. Class 2 devices are the ones that we're more concerned with. The next section says, may include as the Secretary determines appropriate. Now, keep in mind, I don't remember what the numbers are on this. Somebody came out a while back and talked about how many times it refers to the Secretary's discretion as to what she, Kathleen Sebelius, can determine necessary. They leave this open-ended for her to determine this, which we know what that is. That's Barack Obama. Whatever he wants to do, she's going to do, because she's obviously his little puppet. That's many, many times in here. So don't be mistaken when you see that. It's not something to be taken lightly. It's something open-ended that basically allows them to do whatever they want because it's at her discretion. It says, may include, as the Secretary determines appropriate and specifies in regulation, a Class 2 device that is life-supporting or life-sustaining. Now, in order for you to take my word for the fact of what a Class 2 device is, guess where we went? We went to the federal government site, the FDA's website. Go to fda.gov, fda.gov. Click on the tab, Medical Devices, at the upper left-hand corner of your page. This is going to bring you to a page that basically describes all types of medical devices out there. Now, if you'll look, it says Guidance for Industry and FDA Staff, Class 2 Special Controls. Below that guidance document, implantable radio frequency transponder system for patient identification and health information. Now, this document was issued on December 10th, 2004. It is still there. This is not an old document that's it's been changed or reworded or anything like that. This is the policy that they're following right now, even though it was set up in 2004. This is the policy that's out there now. This is not an Obama administration deal right here. Obama administration, they're opportunistic and they take advantage of certain situations. They didn't create this particular one. They're just following through on it. So keep in mind of the date we have in here. And I'm saying that for very particular reasons. Obama is going to take the bulk of the credit for Obamacare because he deserves it. He's taking these tools that are laid out there for us, and he's basically driving us even further off into oblivion where nothing is going to be able to be controlled because they will manage everything. But this has been set up by other administrations also. He's just taking the baton and moving on with it. Scroll down the page under number 1, background. This guidance document was developed as a special control guidance to support the classification of the implantable radio frequency transponder system for patient ID and health information into Class 2 special controls. The device is intended to enable access to secure patient identification and corresponding health information in humans. I want you to go to page 1505. Type in 1505 at the top. Up the upper left-hand corner, you're going to notice there's this little box up there. The amount of pages in this particular bill on this PDF version of it is 1990. Type in 1505 right to the box to the left of it. In this paragraph, the term data refers to information respecting a covered device, including claims data, insurance claims data, all of your claim history, and everything will be in here. Patient survey data, and we'll move on down to electronic health records and any other data deemed appropriate by the Secretary. Now, here we go with that open-ended deal again. Any other data that the Secretary, parentheses, Barack Hussein Obama, deems necessary, they can put on here. This is a law. This is a bill that's allowing them to put whatever they want on a chip that's going to be implanted into human beings, okay? The Secretary is going to determine what's allowable to go on here. Move on to page 1506, to permit analysis of linked data. Linked data, think about what we're talking about, linked data. It's all these health records, but there's other things also. How about your bank account? How about your bank account? Why would they have the bank account in there, you're thinking? And they don't have the right to do that. They can't put my bank account information on here, can they? There's no way. This is for health reasons, right? We're going to skip to a different segment real quick because I want you to understand how this fits in here. We're going to go to a totally different section in the same document, but a totally different section. Go to page 77. Type page 77 into that box at the upper left-hand corner of your page. It reads, under D, enable the real-time or near real-time determination of an individual's financial responsibility at the point of service and to the extent possible prior to service, including whether the individual is eligible for a specific service. Do you get what they're saying right here? Determination of an individual's financial responsibility at the point of service. Now, it's to enable real time, not to see if this is to see if somebody can pay for this and to take the money out of their bank account. They're not just trying to see if you can pay for it. Enable the real time. Enable the real time determination of an individual's financial responsibility at the point of service. They're going to check and see what you owe, and they're going to enable the ability to take that money out of your account, because they're going to have all this account. How else are they going to enable? How else are they going to check and see what your financial responsibility is and if you can provide it? How else are they going to know that you can fulfill that financial responsibility? How are they going to know that if they don't have some kind of a link to your bank account, to your records? Now, you want more good news? Go to page 735. Type in 735 in that page box and go to 735. Encourage, as appropriate, the development and use of clinical registries and the development of clinical effectiveness research data networks from electronic health records, post-marketing drug, and medical device surveillance efforts and other forms of electronic health data, blah, 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 blah. Medical device surveillance. Medical device surveillance. What do you think of when you think of surveillance? What are they trying to survey? Better yet, who are they trying to survey? Medical device surveillance. They will be able to survey. In other words, this is a radio frequency transponder. It's sending a signal. You're going to be plugged into one of the largest surveillance projects out there in history when you have your little rice-sized implant put in your body. Friends, I want you to think about what we just showed you. Other than RFID Canada's website, which is the manufacturer of the product itself, or it's one of the manufacturers of an RFID chip, the other two websites that I took you to, all that information is still out there right now, right this moment. You go out there now, it's there. Remember, the first website is housedocs.house.gov/rules/health/11_AHCAA.pdf. That's where you're going to find all the wording and verbiage in the House Bill 3962. Then FDA.gov has the information to back up what a Class 2 device is from this particular House bill. So I'm sending you to not bloggers, I'm sending you to websites where you can back this info up yourself. Now, I'm just assuming what they're going to use all this for, because they're the ones tying all this together. They're the ones putting these pieces together for us. Are we that gullible where we're sitting back here going to look at all these pieces falling into place in front of our eyes and assume that can't be what that is?
I have 2 words for you: predator drones. You will never see it coming. You think I'm joking? You think I'm joking? You think I'm joking? You think I'm joking?
It's a mess because we have a bad foreign policy. We're pretending we're at war. We haven't declared the war, but we're at war against a tactic, and therefore there's no limits to it. So we create these monstrosities, and we do things outside the law. We come up with assassinations, allowing the president to decide who's going to be assassinated, and lo and behold, 3 Americans now have been on the list. They've been assassinated, but they don't talk about the second one because the second one happened to be a 16-year-old son of Alaki. So what are we doing here to accept this idea that our president is in this lawlessness to pursue, and that we someday will be subject to those same courts? So no, you don't. You want to live within the law and obey the law, because otherwise it's going to be very bad for all of us. And this whole idea that now we can be assassinated by somebody that we don't even like to run our medical care, and giving this power to the president to be the prosecutor, the executor, the judge, and the jury, we better look at that carefully before you automatically endorse something like that.
Congressman, thank you very much.
According to a Facebook tribute page, he liked watching The Simpsons, reading Harry Potter, listening to Snoop Dogg. He was a U.S. citizen born in Colorado. 16-year-old Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki was like so many other kids his age, but he happened to be the son of Anwar al-Awlaki. 2 weeks after his father was killed in a U.S. drone strike in Yemen, the younger al-Awlaki was also killed by a drone there, along with a teenage cousin and several others.
That's the most persistent fly I've ever seen. Nice.
Now, where were we?
That is very good. It's on. It's right there.
It's right there. You want to film that? There it is.
Why would he do that?
Pumping down the black people on those faith base.
Sheriff Joe Arpaio says he suspects President Obama's birth certificate is a fake.
We believe probable cause exists indicating that forgery and fraud may have been committed.
Arpaio says his team of volunteer investigators believes President Obama's birth certificate is computer generated. They say they have a person of interest that may be involved in that hoax.
So what is next? CBS 5's Heather Moore has been trying to get the answer to that question all night. Heather, what did you come up with?
Well, Catherine and Cena, the sheriff says maybe Congress needs to take this on next.
North Korea is vowing to launch a preemptive nuclear strike against the United States, hours before a UN vote on sanctions against Pyongyang for its recent nuclear test. The country's state TV quoted an unidentified spokesman for the foreign ministry saying it will exercise the right to a preemptive nuclear attack. The newsreader cites the UN Security Council vote and U.S. military drills as justification. As the statement was being read on large TV screens around the North Korean capital, this man says he couldn't hold back his anger. His country must retaliate against its enemies, he says. This man blasts the possible sanctions that the UN will vote on Thursday, saying that a preemptive nuclear attack will turn their enemies into a sea of flames. At a staged mass rally held earlier in the day in Pyongyang, North Korean officials reiterated their nuclear rhetoric that has amped up in recent days.
Hey, glad you're up. Russia flexing its muscle now by sending a nuclear message to America. Got a spokeswoman for the Pacific Air Force in Hawaii confirmed that just days ago, 2 nuclear-armed bombers from Russia circled the U.S. territory of Guam before being intercepted by American military jets. Is this proof that Russia is becoming a greater threat to the U.S. than the administration has let on, known all along but doesn't want to tell us? Bill Gertz, senior editor for the Washington Free Beacon, joins us live from Washington. Bill, what do you read into this?
Well, Brian, I think it's pretty clear that, when I asked the Air Force spokeswoman why the Russians were doing this, she told me to ask the Russians, which is kind of a joke. I think this was clearly a simulated nuclear attack on the United States, and it's not the first time. This is actually the 3rd incident where Russian strategic bombers have come close to U.S. coast. The last one in June was part of a major strategic exercise where a Russian general actually said they were practicing targeting our missile defense bases in Alaska and California.
What's our response been?
Silence, pretty much. The administration is trying to salvage their reset policy, which has been pretty much of a disaster. It's been totally one way. The U.S. makes concessions, the Russians pocket them, and continue on a more aggressive and more anti-democratic posture.
Now, why do you think that is? I mean, it doesn't seem that long ago where George Bush was riding around with Vladimir Putin, and they talked about a new era in U.S.-Russian relations. What has gone wrong? What is their complaint with us?
Well, the Russians under Putin are trying to move back into the Soviet period. They see that as the glory days, and they're rebuilding their military. They're building up their nuclear forces in a major way. At the same time, the U.S. is getting ready for further nuclear cuts.
And that is happening right now. We want to cut our arsenal by another third. There's been no response. Now Secretary of State Kerry picks up the phone to talk to his counterpart in Russia. No return call until yesterday.
Yes. And one of the chief U.S. arms negotiators, Rose Gottmuller, was in Russia almost at the same time that this bomber incident occurred, and she never even raised this issue. She's looking to try to get a new round of arms talks going.
And, Bill, politically, it seems as if everything is blamed internally on Russia. Everything that goes wrong, they bring it back to America. They're trying to create an anti-American feeling again inside Russia.
For we once were, we are no longer a Christian nation, or no longer a Christian nation. Change has come to America.
which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
But the burdens of global citizenship continue to bind us together.
The president is proposing to spend more than $3.5 billion.
The national debt is now over $100 billion.
Collapse of Building 7.